The world is kind of got a chorus of folks telling you we're running out of copper and copper is going to be in short supply and rush to buy it now. And we're not in that camp. We're really more copper skeptics, as I like to say it. We do see a scenario in 2025, 2026 timeframe where there's very little copper coming to market, and that couldn't coincide with an increase in demand. However, I don't understand why no one's talking about 4 large copper mines that are ramping up now, right? And so those will be material. You made the point about Codelco, which is absolutely true. It's the most important copper supply in the world. However, that's not news, right? We've known that Codelco is going to be producing less for a while now. They've telegraphed that. So in our mind, the copper bulls over the years have been warning of running out of copper. This isn't the first time. And where they've been wrong time and again has been on the demand side. So I find it kind of curious that the world is ignoring weaker PMIs, weaker Chinese property sector activity, and instead just talking about EVs. You know, if the Chinese property sector is 20% of demand, EVs comprise single digits. So we do think that copper will have its day, but we think it's probably too early to get quite that excited.
Speaking of that copper supply that's coming online, how significant is Oyu Tolgoi going to be in all of this? Because I suppose that's one of the ones that you would imagine a lot of people are ignoring when it's going to be one of the biggest copper mines in the world.
Right, we've got Oyu Tolgoi, Kamoa-Kakula, I think is ignored, Quellaveco, and QB2. So those are 4 large ones that come to mind, and many of them were delayed but are now coming to market. So those are all pretty huge. Those are all at least 200, 300,000 tons a year with ability to ramp up even further. So yes, there aren't a lot of new greenfields beyond that, but we would expect brownfields. And the more the hysteria over lack of copper supply, the more that you'll absolutely see dollars put to expanding the existing copper supply. That said, again, in 2025, I could see a scenario where there's a gap if demand exceeds expectations and supply lags. By the end of the decade, there should be a whole lot more copper, but there is a gap potentially ahead. But Oyu Tolgoi is a huge one that is finally ramping up after years of delays.
If demand exceeds supply, right? Timna, good morning. Tanveer joining in this conversation. And it's a big if, given that China's reopen has not gone as per plan.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the point we're making, is that China's reopen was, I think, overhyped. I think it's clear that now that has been a bit disappointing. The property sector is a massive component of that. The Chinese government has been clear it wants to engineer a soft landing. And granted, that could be offset by infrastructure, but that infrastructure may or may not be as copper intensive. So, best case scenario, copper is kind of neutral demand in China. And, you're already seeing some evidence of some of the big initiatives to ramp up EV demand getting pushed out a little bit. For example, in Germany recently, we have some elections coming up in the U.S. We could see some of the initiatives there slow down and, in fact, not speed up. So I think if the EV consumption is a little slower than expected, that also pushes out the bull case a bit.